The private jet terminal at Skyhaven International was a world of polished marble, soft ambient lighting, and the faint hum of distant engines. It was a place where power and privilege intersected, where the elite moved with an air of effortless authority. But today, the terminal would bear witness to a confrontation that would redefine respect, accountability, and the cost of underestimating someone based on appearances. Amara Carter stepped into the terminal, her presence commanding attention without a word. Dressed in a tailored navy blazer and sleek trousers, she carried herself with the quiet confidence of someone who had earned her place in this world. Her natural curls framed her face, and her sharp, almond-shaped eyes scanned the room with a calm intensity. In her hand, she held a leather carry-on and a tablet, tools of a woman who didn't need flashy displays to prove her worth. As she approached the check-in desk, a young attendant greeted her with a practiced smile. "Good morning, ma'am. How may I assist you?" Amara returned the smile, her tone measured. "Good morning. I'm here for the Carter flight to Zurich." The attendant's eyes flicked to her screen, then widened slightly. "Of course, Ms. Carter. Everything is in order. Your jet is being prepared, and the captain will meet you shortly." Amara nodded, stepping aside to wait. She didn't have to wait long. From across the terminal, a man in a crisp pilot's uniform approached. His broad shoulders and confident stride suggested authority, but his expression, guarded, with a hint of something darker, told a different story. "Ms. Carter, I presume?" he said. His voice clipped as he extended a hand. Amara shook it firmly, her grip steady. "Captain Reynolds, I take it?" "That's correct," he replied, his tone polite but laced with an undercurrent of skepticism. He glanced at her carry-on, then back at her, his gaze lingering just a moment too long. "I must say, we don't often see private clients like yourself." Amara raised an eyebrow, her voice calm but edged with steel. "Clients like myself? And what exactly does that mean, Captain?" Reynolds hesitated, his smirk faltering. "No offense intended, ma'am. It's just unusual. Most of our private jet owners are, well, different." Amara's eyes narrowed, her patience wearing thin. "Different how, Captain? Please, enlighten me." The tension in the air was palpable. Reynolds shifted uncomfortably, realizing too late that he had crossed a line. But before he could respond, Amara cut him off. "Let me make one thing clear," she said, her voice low and commanding. "This jet is mine. I earned it through years of hard work, and I won't tolerate being treated as anything less than its owner. If you have a problem with that, I suggest you step aside now." Reynolds' face flushed, his bravado crumbling under the weight of her words. He opened his mouth to speak, but Amara was already turning away, her focus shifting to the sleek aircraft waiting on the tarmac. As she boarded the jet, Amara couldn't shake the feeling that this confrontation was far from over. But she was ready. She had fought too hard, climbed too high, to let anyone, especially a man like Captain Reynolds, diminish her worth. What followed would be a lesson in accountability, a reminder that prejudice has no place in the skies, or anywhere else. And by the time the wheels touched down in Zurich, Captain Reynolds would learn the hard way that underestimating Amara Carter was a mistake he would never make again. This version introduces new characters, Amara Carter and Captain Reynolds, and a fresh setting, Skyhaven International and Zurich, while maintaining the core themes of resilience, justice, and accountability. Let me know if you'd like further adjustments. The confrontation at 40.000 feet. As the jet taxied onto the runway, Amara settled into her seat, her posture relaxed but her mind sharp. The luxurious interior of the aircraft, plush leather seats, polished wood accents, and the soft hum of the engines, was a testament to her success. But today, it felt less like a sanctuary and more like a battleground. She could feel Captain Reynolds' lingering resentment, a storm brewing just beyond the cockpit door. The flight attendant, a young man named Ethan, approached her with a polite smile. "Ms. Carter, can I get you anything before takeoff? Champagne, perhaps? Or a coffee?" Amara returned the smile, her tone warm but firm. "Just water for now, thank you, Ethan." As Ethan retreated, Amara's gaze drifted to the window. The tarmac stretched out before her, a blur of activity as ground crews prepared for departure. She took a deep breath, centering herself. This flight wasn't just about reaching Zurich, it was about proving, once again, that she belonged in spaces where others doubted her. Minutes later, the jet roared to life, lifting smoothly into the sky. The ascent was flawless, but the tension in the cabin was palpable. Amara could sense Ethan's unease as he moved about, his movements careful and deliberate. She knew he had witnessed the exchange between her and Reynolds, and she appreciated his professionalism in the face of discomfort. As the jet leveled off at cruising altitude, Amara opened her tablet, reviewing the final details of her presentation for the Zurich meeting, but her focus was interrupted by the sound of raised voices from the cockpit. The words were muffled, but the tone was unmistakable: anger, frustration, and a hint of desperation. Amara's eyes narrowed. She had dealt with men like Reynolds before, men who mistook arrogance for authority and entitlement for competence. But this time, she wasn't going to let it slide. She unbuckled her seatbelt and stood, her movements calm but deliberate. Ethan appeared at her side, his expression concerned. "Miss Carter, is everything all right?" "I'm fine, Ethan," she replied, her voice steady, "but I need to have a word with Captain Reynolds." Ethan hesitated, clearly torn between his duty and his concern. "Of course, ma'am, but please, be careful." Amara nodded, then made her way to the cockpit. She knocked once before pushing the door open. Reynolds and his co-pilot, a younger man named Daniel, turned to face her, their expressions a mix of surprise and irritation. "Ms. Carter," Reynolds said, his tone clipped. "Is there a problem? That's what I'd like to know." Amara replied, her voice calm but laced with steel. "I couldn't help but overhear your discussion. Care to share what's going on?" Reynolds' face flushed, but he held her gaze. "This is a private matter. Ma'am, I suggest you return to your seat." Amara crossed her arms, her expression unyielding. "This is my jet, Captain, and if there's an issue that could affect this flight, I have a right to know." Daniel glanced between them, his discomfort evident. "Captain, maybe we should stay out of this," Reynolds snapped, cutting him off. He turned back to Amara, his jaw tight. "Look, Ms. Carter, I don't know who you think you are, but this is my cockpit. I'm in charge here, and I won't be questioned by somewhat." Amara interrupted, her voice sharp. "Go ahead, Captain, say it." Reynolds hesitated, his bravado faltering under her unwavering gaze. But before he could respond, the radio crackled to life. A voice, calm but authoritative, filled the cockpit. "Captain Reynolds, this is Michael Connors, CEO of Elite Aviation. We've received a report regarding your conduct this morning. You are to stand down immediately and hand control of the aircraft to your co-pilot. Do you understand?" Reynolds' face went pale, his hands tightening on the controls. "Mr. Connors, I can explain. There will be time for explanations later." Connors interrupted. "For now, your priority is to ensure the safety and comfort of your passenger. Is that clear?" Reynolds swallowed hard, then nodded. "Yes, sir." Amara watched as Reynolds reluctantly unbuckled his seatbelt and stepped aside, his earlier arrogance replaced by a palpable sense of defeat. Daniel took the controls, his movements steady and confident. As Amara turned to leave, Reynolds spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "This isn't over." Amara paused, then looked back at him, her expression calm but resolute. "For you, Captain, it is." She returned to her seat, the weight of the confrontation lifting as the jet continued its smooth journey through the clouds. Ethan approached her again, this time with a glass of water and a small smile. "Everything all right, ma'am?" Amara took the glass, her expression softening. "Everything's fine, Ethan, thank you." As she sipped the water, her gaze drifted to the window. The sky outside was a vast expanse of blue, endless and uncharted. It was a reminder, she thought, of the limitless possibilities that awaited those who refused to be bound by the limitations others tried to impose. The battle wasn't over, not for her, and not for anyone else who had ever been made to feel like they didn't belong. But today, she had won, and that was enough. The plane continued to glide smoothly through the clouds. The sky outside the window was a beautiful picture of bright yellow sunlight. But inside the cabin, the atmosphere was still as tense as a string about to snap. Amara sat up straight, her eyes focused on the tablet screen, but her mind was still thinking about what had just happened. Ethan, the young flight attendant, walked over to her with a worried expression. "Miss Carter, is everything okay? Is there anything I can do to help you?" Amara looked up, giving a gentle smile. "Thank you, Ethan, I'm fine." It's just, sometimes, we have to face unexpected challenges. Ethan nodded, his eyes filled with sympathy. I understand, ma'am, but you handled it so well. I admire you. Amara felt a warm glow spread through her heart. Thank you, Ethan. Your support means a lot to me. As Ethan left, Amara turned to look out the window. The fluffy white clouds drifted lazily below. Like light, free dreams, she thought about her journey. From her difficult early days to the pinnacle of success. Every step, every challenge, was part of the story she was writing. Suddenly, heavy footsteps sounded from behind her. Amara turned to see Captain Reynolds standing there, his face red with anger and shame. Ms. Carter, Reynolds began, his voice shaking but still trying to sound firm. I want to talk to you. Amara looked him straight in the eye. Unafraid. Speak, Captain, I'm listening. Reynolds took a deep breath, as if trying to control his emotions. I apologize for what happened. I shouldn't have acted that way. Amara nodded, but her eyes remained cold. What good is an apology if it doesn't come with a change? Captain, you treated me like I didn't deserve to be here. That was not only insulting, but also deeply disrespectful. Reynolds bowed his head, his eyes filled with regret. I know, I was wrong. I let my personal prejudices cloud my judgment. But I hope you can give me a chance to make things right. Amara looked at him for a long moment, then sighed. Captain Reynolds, I'm not the one who decides your fate. But I hope you understand that your actions today not only affected you, but others as well. They need to see that disrespect and prejudice will never be tolerated. Reynolds nodded, his voice fading. I understand, and I will accept the consequences. Amara gave him one last look, then turned back to look out the window. I hope you learned something from this experience, Captain, and I hope that, in the future, you will treat people with the respect they deserve. Reynolds stood there for a moment, as if trying to find more words, but in the end, he just turned away and left the passenger compartment. As the plane began to descend into Zurich, Amara felt a strange sense of relief. She had fought and won, not only for herself, but for all those who had been treated unfairly. She knew that her journey was still long, but every step was a step closer to a more just world. As she stepped off the plane, the warm sunlight of Zurich greeted her. Amara took a deep breath, feeling the freedom and determination in her heart. She is ready for the next challenge, and she knows that, no matter what happens, she will never stop fighting for justice. This section continues to develop the story with dialogue between Amara and Reynolds, while emphasizing the message of forgiveness, change, and determination to fight for justice. If you have any details to add or any adjustments, please let me know. As the jet touched down in Zurich, the crisp alpine air greeted Amara like a breath of renewal. The city, with its pristine streets and towering peaks in the distance, felt like a blank canvas, a place where new beginnings were possible. But for Amara, this trip was more than just business. It was a testament to her unwavering resolve and a reminder of the battles she had fought to get here. The moment she stepped off the plane, her phone buzzed with a message from Leonard Hayes, her trusted advisor and confidant. Leonard, welcome to Zurich. How was the flight? Any more turbulence? Amara smiled faintly, typing a quick reply. Amara, the flight was smooth, but the real turbulence happened before takeoff. I'll fill you in later. Meeting still on schedule? Leonard. Yes, 3 p.m. sharp. And don't worry, I've got your back. As always. Amara slipped her phone into her bag, feeling a surge of gratitude for Leonard's unwavering support. He had been by her side through every challenge, and his belief in her had never wavered. A sleek black car awaited her on the tarmac, its driver holding the door open with a polite nod. Ms. Carter, welcome to Zurich. Your hotel is ready for you. Thank you, Amara replied, sliding into the plush leather seat. As the car pulled away, she allowed herself a moment to soak in the city's charm. The blend of historic architecture and modern sophistication was striking, a reflection of the balance she strived for in her own life, honoring the past while forging a bold future. The meeting of minds. The conference room at the Zurich International Business Center was a study in understated elegance. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered panoramic views of the city, while the long, polished table gleamed under the soft glow of recessed lighting. Seated around it were some of the most influential figures in European commerce, their expressions a mix of curiosity and guarded interest. Amara entered the room with her signature poise, her navy blazer and tailored trousers exuding confidence. Leonard stood to greet her, his warm smile a reassuring anchor in the sea of unfamiliar faces. "Everyone," Leonard began, his voice commanding attention. "This is Amara Carter, the visionary behind Carter Lux. She's here to present her proposal for our joint venture." Amara nodded, her gaze sweeping the room. "Thank you, Leonard, and thank you all for being here. I know your time is valuable, so I'll get straight to the point." She began her presentation, her voice steady and compelling. She spoke of innovation, of breaking barriers, and of creating a brand that resonated with authenticity and excellence. Her words were not just about profit margins or market share. They were about redefining what success looked like in an industry often dominated by outdated norms. As she concluded, the room was silent for a moment before erupting into applause. One of the executives, a silver-haired man with piercing blue eyes, leaned forward. "Ms. Carter, your vision is impressive, but tell me, how do you plan to navigate the challenges of entering a market as competitive as Europe?" Amara met his gaze without flinching. "By staying true to our values. Carter Lux isn't just a brand, it's a movement. We don't just adapt to the market, we shape it. And we do so with integrity, inclusivity, and a commitment to excellence." The man nodded, a hint of admiration in his eyes. "Well said, I look forward to seeing how this partnership unfolds." A quiet victory. After the meeting, Leonard pulled Amara aside, his expression a mix of pride and relief. "You were incredible in there. They were hanging on your every word." Amara smiled, though her mind was already racing ahead. "Thank you, Leonard, but this is just the beginning. We have a lot of work to do." As they walked through the bustling streets of Zurich, Leonard glanced at her. "And what about Reynolds? Any updates?" Amara's expression darkened slightly. "He's been suspended pending an investigation. But honestly, Leonard, this isn't just about him. It's about the system that allows people like him to thrive. We need to push for real change, not just in aviation, but everywhere." Leonard nodded thoughtfully. "You're right, and you've already started that change. Today proved that." Amara looked out at the city, the golden light of the setting sun casting long shadows across the cobblestone streets. "Maybe, but there's still so much to do. And I won't stop until everyone, no matter who they are or where they come from, has a fair shot at success." A moment of reflection. That evening, as Amara sat in her hotel suite, she allowed herself a rare moment of quiet reflection. The events of the day replayed in her mind, the confrontation with Reynolds, the successful meeting, the promise of a new partnership. Each moment was a thread in the tapestry of her journey, a reminder of how far she had come and how much further she had to go. She picked up her phone and scrolled through her messages, pausing at one from Ethan, the flight attendant from earlier. "Ethan, Ms. Carter, I just wanted to say thank you. Watching you stand up for yourself today was inspiring. You reminded me that no matter what, we should never let anyone diminish our worth." Amara felt a lump form in her throat. She typed a reply, her fingers moving swiftly. "Amara, thank you. Ethan, your words mean more to me than you know. Remember, your worth is non-negotiable. Never let anyone tell you otherwise." As she set her phone down, Amara felt a renewed sense of purpose. The road ahead would be challenging, but she was ready. For every Reynolds, there were countless others like Ethan, people who needed to see that justice was possible, that resilience could triumph over prejudice. And as she gazed out at the twinkling lights of Zurich, Amara knew one thing for certain: she would never stop fighting, not just for herself, but for everyone who dared to dream of a better, fairer world. This continuation builds on the story's themes while introducing new dynamics, such as the business meeting in Zurich and the emotional impact of Amara's actions on others like Ethan. Let me know if you'd like to expand further or adjust any details. A night of reflection and resolve. The Zurich night was alive with a quiet energy, the city's lights shimmering like stars against the dark canvas of the sky. Amara stood by the floor-to-ceiling window of her hotel suite, a glass of wine in hand, her thoughts swirling like the gentle currents of the Limit River below. The day had been a whirlwind, a mix of triumph, tension, and quiet introspection. Now, in the stillness of the evening, she allowed herself to process it all. Her phone buzzed on the table, pulling her from her reverie. It was a message from Marcus, the young flight attendant who had witnessed her confrontation with Captain Reynolds earlier. "Marcus, Ms. Carter, I hope you don't mind me reaching out. I just wanted to say how much I admire the way you handled things today. You stood up not just for yourself, but for all of us who've ever felt unseen or undervalued. Thank you." Amara's lips curved into a soft smile as she read his words. She typed a reply, her fingers moving with purpose. "Amara. Thank you, Marcus. Your kindness means a lot to me. Remember, your voice matters just as much as anyone else's. Never let anyone make you feel otherwise." Setting her phone down, Amara took a sip of wine, the rich flavor grounding her. She thought about Marcus, about Ethan, and about all the people who had crossed her path today. Each of them carried their own struggles, their own battles against prejudice and inequality. And while she couldn't fight every battle for them, she could inspire them to fight for themselves. A call from Leonard. The sound of her phone ringing broke the silence. It was Leonard. "Amara." His voice was warm but tinged with concern. "How are you holding up? Today was a lot." She chuckled softly, leaning against the window frame. "I'm fine, Leonard. Just reflecting. Today was a reminder of why I do what I do. It's not just about building a company, it's about building a legacy. One that empowers people to rise above the barriers others try to put in their way." Leonard was quiet for a moment, then sighed. "You're incredible. You know that? Most people would have let today's events shake them. But you turned it into fuel." "I didn't have a choice," Amara replied, her voice steady but laced with emotion. "Every time someone like Reynolds tries to diminish me, it only makes me more determined to prove them wrong. And not just for me, for everyone who's ever been made to feel like they don't belong." "Well," Leonard said, his tone lightening, "you've certainly proven your point. The board was impressed today. They see your vision, Amara, and they believe in it." "That's good to hear," she said, though her mind was already racing ahead. "But this is just the beginning. We have a lot of work to do, not just in business, but in changing the culture that allows people like Reynolds to thrive." "Agreed," Leonard said, "and you've already started that change. Today was proof of that. A dream takes shape." After the call, Amara sat at the sleek desk in her suite, her laptop open in front of her. She began drafting an email to the CEO of Elite Aviation, the company that operated her private jet. Her fingers flew across the keyboard as she outlined her concerns about Captain Reynolds' behavior and the broader issues of bias and discrimination within the industry. She didn't just want accountability for Reynolds, she wanted systemic change. As she typed, her mind wandered to the idea of creating a foundation, a platform to support and empower individuals who faced similar challenges in their professional lives. She envisioned mentorship programs, scholarships, and advocacy initiatives designed to break down barriers and create opportunities for those who had been overlooked or underestimated. The idea excited her, filling her with a sense of purpose that went beyond her business ambitions. This wasn't just about success, it was about significance. About leaving the world better than she found it. A message from the past. Just as she was about to close her laptop, an email notification popped up. It was from Elite Aviation's CEO, Michael Connors. Subject: Incident report, immediate action taken. Dear Ms. Carter, thank you for bringing this matter to our attention. Please rest assured that we take your concerns seriously. Captain Reynolds has been suspended pending a full investigation, and we are implementing mandatory diversity and sensitivity training for all staff. Your feedback has been invaluable in helping us address these issues, and we are committed to ensuring that such behavior is not tolerated in the future. Sincerely, Michael Connors. Amara read the email twice, a sense of quiet satisfaction settling over her. It wasn't a complete victory, but it was a step in the right direction. And sometimes, that was enough. A new dawn. As the first light of dawn painted the Zurich skyline in hues of pink and gold, Amara stood by the window once more, her heart full of hope and determination. The challenges of the previous day had tested her, but they had also strengthened her resolve. She knew the road ahead would be long and fraught with obstacles. But she was ready. For every Captain Reynolds, there were countless others like Marcus and Ethan, people who needed to see that justice was possible. That resilience could triumph over prejudice. And as long as she had breath in her body, Amara would fight for them. She picked up her phone and sent one final message before heading to bed. Amara. Leonard, let's schedule a meeting next week. I have an idea for a foundation, one that empowers people to rise above the barriers others try to put in their way. It's time we do more than just talk about change. It's time we create it. As she drifted off to sleep, Amara felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in a long time. The battles of the day were behind her, and the promise of a brighter future lay ahead. And with every step she took, she was determined to make that future a reality, not just for herself, but for everyone who dared to dream. This continuation builds on the story's themes while introducing new elements, such as Amara's vision for a foundation and her ongoing efforts to create systemic change. Let me know if you'd like to expand further or adjust any details. A legacy of light. The sun rose over Zurich, its golden rays spilling across the city like a promise of new beginnings. Amara stood on the balcony of her hotel suite, the crisp morning air filling her lungs as she gazed at the horizon. The events of the past 24 hours had been a whirlwind, a test of her strength, her resolve, and her belief in the power of justice. But as the light of a new day washed over her, she felt a profound sense of clarity. Her phone buzzed on the table behind her. It was a message from Leonard, her steadfast ally and friend. Leonard. Morning. Amara. I've scheduled the meeting for the foundation. Let's make this happen. You've already changed so many lives. Now it's time to change the world. Amara smiled, her heart swelling with gratitude. Leonard had always believed in her, even when she doubted herself. His unwavering support was a reminder that she wasn't alone in this fight. She typed a quick reply. Amara. Thank you, Leonard. Let's do this. For everyone who's ever been told they don't belong. As she set her phone down, her gaze drifted to the city below. The streets were coming alive with the hum of morning commuters, each person carrying their own dreams, their own struggles. Amara thought about Marcus, the young flight attendant who had reached out to her. She thought about Ethan, who had quietly supported her during the flight. And she thought about all the others, those she had met and those she hadn't, who faced the same battles she had fought for so long. They were the reason she couldn't stop. They were the reason she wouldn't. A new chapter. Later that morning, Amara stood at the podium in the Zurich International Business Center, her presence commanding the room. The audience, comprised of industry leaders, investors, and journalists, watched her with rapt attention. She had just concluded her presentation on the future of Carter Lux, and the room was buzzing with excitement. But Amara wasn't finished. Before I conclude, she said, her voice steady and resonant, I want to share something personal with all of you. Yesterday, I faced a situation that reminded me why I do what I do. It wasn't just about business or success, it was about standing up for what's right. It was about proving that no matter who you are or where you come from, you deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. The room fell silent, every eye fixed on her. That's why, today, I'm announcing the launch of the Carter Foundation, a platform dedicated to empowering individuals who face barriers in their professional lives. Through mentorship, scholarships, and advocacy, we will create opportunities for those who have been overlooked, underestimated, or excluded, because talent knows no gender, no race, no background, and it's time we start recognizing that. The applause was thunderous, a wave of support that washed over her like a tidal wave. Amara felt a lump form in her throat as she looked out at the sea of faces, some familiar, some new, but all united in their belief in her vision. A quiet victory. As the event wound down, Amara found herself surrounded by well-wishers and admirers. But amidst the crowd, one face stood out, a young woman with bright eyes and a nervous smile. She approached Amara hesitantly, clutching a notebook to her chest. Ms. Carter, the woman said, her voice trembling slightly, I just wanted to say thank you. Your story, it gave me the courage to keep going. I've been told so many times that I don't belong in this industry. But hearing you speak today, it made me believe that maybe I do. Amara's heart ached with empathy. She reached out and gently took the woman's hand. What's your name? Lena, the woman replied. Lena, Amara said, her voice soft but firm. You do belong. Never let anyone tell you otherwise. And if you ever need support, the Carter Foundation will be here for you. Tears welled in Lena's eyes as she nodded. Thank you, Ms. Carter. You have no idea how much this means to me. Amara smiled, her own eyes glistening. You're stronger than you know. Lena, and together, we're going to change the world. A legacy begins. That evening, as Amara packed her bags for the journey home, she felt a profound sense of fulfillment. The foundation was just the beginning, a seed planted in the fertile soil of hope and determination. It would take time to grow, but she was willing to nurture it, to fight for it, no matter how long it took. As the plane lifted off the runway, Amara gazed out at the city below, its lights twinkling like stars. She thought about the people she had met, the battles she had fought, and the future she was building. It wasn't just about her anymore. It was about them, the Marcuses, the Ethans, the Lenas of the world. They were her legacy, her reason to keep going. And as the jet soared into the night sky, Amara felt a quiet certainty settle over her. The road ahead would be long, and the challenges would be many. But she was ready. For every barrier she broke, for every life she touched, she was one step closer to a world where justice wasn't just a dream, it was a reality. The sky was no longer the limit. It was just the beginning.